All right. Hey, welcome back. Coming back for another Wednesday special bonus podcast with another comic book creator. This one has been requested by the millions. No, just one black guy. Delvin asked me to get on the podcast. The one and only Jay Sandlin. How you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I am so glad for the millions of requests that Delvin constituted. So make sure you follow me at jsandlin.com, Twitter and Instagram at jsandlin_. Join my newsletter and follow for the latest releases.
Oh, right there. But more say, hey, thank you for coming on the show, man. And then today we're obviously going to get into more about, of course, your background and stuff in the comic game and stuff. But you have a new comic coming out, and I want to say this either on this Wednesday or the next Wednesday after. I can't remember my days of the week right now, but no, you just did a annual comic for Zenescope for Neverland's annual Dark Alliance. How
Yes. So this is my second Zenescope graphic novel. That it is 64 pages that you can get for $8.99, available from your local comic shop or Zenescope.com. June the 9th. It's Neverland Annual Dark Alliance.
Yes, and then more curiosity of because you kind of teased it. Obviously, you've been working with Zenescope with like the H.H. Holmes.
So yes, that was my first release with Zenescope in April. You can get, you still find Grim Tales of Terror Quarterly, H.H. Holmes, a 72-page graphic novel. They're going for one-shots at Zenescope. They want you to get the whole story in one shot for a lower price and more content in one book. We did H.H. Holmes, which was kind of like Supernatural meets Law and Order, with a murder mystery type theme based around America's own Jack the Ripper, H.H. Holmes, and had a blast with two different art teams. One team would do scenes taking place in the past, the other would have scenes in the present, and they kind of flowed together that way. But working on Neverland was a bit of a different animal. We actually had 3 artists put together that 64-page comic.
Well, that's actually, yeah. We'll get into that because I am curious on a question because I know from some of your writings, I was more curious how it is to be a writer that kind of walks into an annual with characters that you are. How would I word it? Like, how much work have you done with like the Zenescope's Neverland before this?
Oh yeah, this was my first toe in the proverbial Neverland sandbox. You know, Zenescope has had, which for one thing, if you're not familiar, Zenescope has the largest shared universe of female-driven characters. And Neverland, they've had their as one of their realms in what they call the Grimm universe, is one of the few that is has a male protagonist, which is Nathan Cross, also known as Hook. Now, I just happened to have read some Neverland prior to working with Zenescope officially. So I knew some of the basics. I knew that Nathan Cross was a kid when he and his brother were kidnapped. They were kidnapped by the Zenescope Peter Pan, who is a one bad motherfucker. He is he's an adult for one, and he is a master of shadow magic, and he uses that to suck the life force of children. And he did that to Nathan Cross's little brother, Timmy. Yeah. Timmy! When they were kids.
No,
and,
yeah.
And that left and took Hook's hand. Well, he's called Nathan. I don't know that he's ever referred to as Hook in story. You just kind of know that's who he is. But in any event, yeah, this was my first time playing in Neverland, and it was a bit of a challenge to make sure we didn't mess up anything continuity wise. Working with Dave Franchini, Zenescope's editor in chief, who is kind of the guardian of all that, we had to make sure we didn't step on anything that had happened before.
Yeah, that's the key, because I in my little bonus episodes I've been doing, I've been kind of, I don't know, it just kind of happens. It fell onto me in the right way. Like, I've had one gentleman who is definitely in, like, he's just an indie comic. One time it was like it's his first big run. He's doing a great job. Another person who's been in the business for so long, and then just before this week's episode, I just talked to someone who's really focused into the Kickstarter world of comics. And I think it's interesting for you because I have obviously listened and watched your work. And this one in particular of Neverland's annual, I think, how is it for a new, I do still like to know, like, how is it for a new not new writer, but, a person coming into a project that is maybe not at the same sacredness as Batman, but of course has a backstory that you have to remember, that you kind of, I know you did homework before you started, but you know what I'm saying? That's kind of crazy to hear.
Oh, sure. I am someone who loves continuity. I love diving deep. And when it comes to continuity, I like to reward long-term readers with lots of little Easter eggs for things that came before. So with the time that I had on Neverland, I tried to sprinkle in some of those. To the point that Dave had to pull me back a little bit. I wanted to reference that Hook, for instance, had been part of Zenescope's equivalent of the Justice League, which is called the Realm Knights. Hook had been a member of the Realm Knights. He's actually the only male member they had. He was the token guy. And he I wanted to reference that, have him mention it and meet up with the contact from one of the Realm Knights. I wanted to use their character Robin, and Dave was like, no, you can't have Robin because this reason and this reason, but you could have this person. So there is a surprise cameo for Zenescope readers on one of the Realm Knights characters that you'll probably recognize, though it is with a twist.
There you go. And then, what is it? That's also, let's take a step back from the Zenescope stuff, because we're going to get back into it, because also I want to say my piece, what I thought about it, because I do think it's good. Spoiler. But what got you into comic books? I know also you have many little stories coming out and all that stuff. What is your background of walking into comic books?
Walking into, there's a chain of grocery stores in the South that I don't know how many people have heard of them, but a chain of grocery stores called Big Star in the South, where my mom liked to go a lot. And I liked it when she took me there because they had a spinner rack, and the spinner rack of comics that they had, I picked up. The first one I ever picked up was Archie Comics Sonic the Hedgehog issue 32 or something. And I got in the second grade, I guess it was second, third, whatever. I got really into Sonic the Hedgehog comics, and I collected those. I subscribed by mail. I got a part of, I got into collecting as well some of the Knuckles comics when Knuckles got his own book. And then I remember coming up on about the time that I got my first pair of glasses in the fourth grade. And I think my mom took me after to get like a reward. And I looked up and I could see these covers on the stands so clearly for the first time. It was at like a Books A Million. And I picked up Peter Parker Spider-Man issue whatever. It was shortly after the end of the Clone Saga, but this was a cover with Michael Morbius and Spider-Man. Okay. And I was like, I want this. It speaks to me. Also Fox Kids and the Fox Kids programming with the X-Men and Spider-Man cartoons, as well as the short-lived Silver Surfer cartoon, really got me into superheroes in general, which got me reading the comics as well.
Did you also like, since you're from that age, because I know some of you, I also don't know all your background. Like, all right, is this like your full time job, or is this like your, like I've had people on here like, yeah, they're still doing that, still have a 9 to 5, but they're obviously in the comic world. So
Yeah, I can't do comics full time. I'm afraid that's my secret identity.
all right, no, that's fine. I just was curious because I know that I know I've been seeing your name, and also obviously, like you said, you have like even a mini little book coming out for like a from a post-apocalyptic universe and all that stuff. And I'm almost debating on just pre-ordering it because right now I saw it on Amazon already. But
Well, it's only 99 cents, so I mean, you don't have much to lose there. So, yeah, 99 cents. He's talking about Quantum Rule, which is a post-apocalyptic sci-fi dystopia set in a future where fighters and contenders go to kind of meet in these death matches for resources. And one of these contenders and his girlfriend get kidnapped by some subterranean Morlocks on the way. So it's kind of leading into a larger story I'd like to tell in the future sometime. But it stands on its own as Quantum Rule. So yeah, check it out on Amazon. It's only 99 cents.
can't hurt, doesn't hurt. No, and then no, we'll go back into uh this Neverland annual, and I just want to more say for any listener, I actually am going to recommend it because also, just like he said, Zenescope is definitely doing a very different twist on their annuals compared to a lot of other comic places. They do, like you said, it might be a little bit more than the quote unquote regular comic book, but I was able to read it, and it was very like, I was not confused. There's no confusion about having walking into these characters as long as you understand, like we've been saying in this show, Zenescope usual universe is just scantily clad women as their fairy tale self. So there's like Belle, and of course like Robin, like he said, which is a obviously just a girl being like an emerald, like Robin Hood, and then and there's just some token males in this universe, but uh, the Dark Alliance book is very well done, and also I do see what he said that he does a very good job of like putting things in for people who've been listening to the Neverland story for since book one, and he's able to twist it and have a little bit of a, you know, the ending give you a little teaser for future stuff, or it could also stop right there, which was really good. And obviously, congrats on that.
Well, thank you.
And then also, because I know you're here, and also I know you're older comics. If this is more of a fun question, if you had to put a superhero in a war zone steel cage match, who would you have in there, and what? Like who would you have in there to write the story?
Okay, wait a minute. Ask me again if I had a what now?
If pick a superhero that you want to write a story that basically has them involved in a war zone steel cage match, because I know you've done obviously over the rope wrestling. I think
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to say aside Daredevil would be really fun for that.
okay.
Matt Murdock, especially if you strip him down to, just like a pair of trunks and taped fists, and he steps into the cage, just having to rely purely on his fighting skills. And if there's like a really loud crowd, that's going to throw off some of his stuff probably. So I think Daredevil would be fun there.
It would be that would be pretty cool. Actually, I was thinking of I just never thought of the Marvel part of it. That's really really good, interesting pick. And then also, what is it? It is like that. What is it like? How do you walk or come into your writing process of a comic script? Because I'm curious, because it's not about you, it's about behind the veil. I'm trying to teasing an episode's going to happen after this one. Of like, I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to understand what do I have to remember if I wanted to write a script for a comic. You know what I'm saying?
Cool. It depends on the project. So, there's different ways to write comics. With the Zenescope projects we've talked about, and as well as like Over the Ropes, those have been work for hire books, meaning that they give me a premise. It could be as little as an outline, it could be character description, but they give me something. And I typically have to make an outline for the overall story, which I send in to, get approved by an editor. The editor will usually have their notes, and then you get to scripting, and the process continues with notes and back and forth and this and that. If you mentioned Kickstarter, and Kickstarter typically gets into your creator-owned comics. I've got some of those coming out in the future. We can talk about later.
Yeah.
That's purely taking my own idea, or maybe me and a co-creator. Maybe we both have our own idea and we work from the ground up there. And there's not an editor to oversee us unless we end up signing, with a publisher who puts out creator-owned comics. And there are some out there. Some will pay a page rate and some will not. Excuse me. And then some books are kickstarted, meaning, they're crowdfunded. And generally that means you can do pretty much whatever you want to do. But I typically always start with an outline and have, I might outline it into a few paragraphs per issue. Let's say if it's going to be a 5-issue book, if it's going to be a few, some pages, just a certain number of pages for a volume. I don't have really a length in mind for an outline. I've had them as little as 1 page and as much as 10 because they're just for me. If I'm showing it to somebody else, I typically don't want more than 4 pages. But then once I've got, I should say, the basic idea down that way, the outline kind of becomes a guide, and scripting is sort of where the magic happens.
I ain't gonna lie, I didn't know that Over the Ropes was they came to you with like a premise. I thought you thought of a actual wrestling story besides the idea of that. You helped kind of blossom.
No, I did. I did. I created Over the Ropes. It's a work for hire book. And that just kind of goes along with, for work for hire projects, you'll get varying degrees of input. For Over the Ropes, all they gave me was give us an underdog wrestling story, and I did the rest.
Okay.
Same company, Mad Cave, gives me a book called World Class, which will be out first of winter next year. And they had a lot more in mind for what they wanted from World Class. They had some characters, a premise, some more of an idea. With Zenescope, like you mentioned, working in the larger sandbox, they're going to have an outline that they've already made. It's no more than a page, and you have to kind of build it from there. So even with work for hire, there's varying degrees of the input you'll receive.
No, because I like hearing that, because I've never, well, I'm not like that, but like I'm very interested that again, it's kind of crazy. I've found all these creators that you are definitely more that the work for hire esque one compared to other ones I've conversated with. So I'm really glad to hear this and collect this knowledge. No, and then what is it? We'll go back to Zenescope so that we at least can get this pretty good and try to wrap it up in a bow. What is do you have any more? Is there any announced things you're probably sticking with Zenescope?
I am sticking with Zenescope. We had a great time doing H.H. Holmes. We had a great time with Neverland. Working with Dave and the editors has been great. And my next one with Zenescope, it has been announced. I'm not sure. Yes, by the time you're listening to this, it'll be announced. It's going to be Grim Tales of Terror presents It's funny you asked about the death match, because this one's going to be a real death match. Zodiac versus Death Force. And these are two of Zenescope's anti-heroes, with Zodiac, the Irish assassin for Merlin, and Death Force, who is basically like the Punisher meets Ghost Rider. They've had their own books with Zenescope, and now they're going to collide head to head and come up against each other. But, the question is, who's really pulling the strings?
Nice.
So,
It sounds interesting. It sounds great. Actually, I'm going to check it. I'll check it out whenever this comes out, or when it gets more release date and all that fun jazz.
And look, I have as far as people who say that Zenescope is all about the female characters, they do have the largest female driven universe. I've only written male main characters in the last 3 books that I've had. H.H. Holmes, if we want to say Holmes is the main character, I wrote him. And then Hook was definitely the main character for Neverland. And with this one, I'd say Zodiac is more of the point of view character, with some from Death Force, but you're going to find out why Death Force's point of view isn't shown as much as Zodiac once you get into it.
Is this one going to be like an annual one too? You said like you probably get the full story in that.
Absolutely, it'll be a 64-page one shot. Grim Tales of Terror. Zenescope presents Zodiac versus Death Force.
Sounds
ding.
It sounds good. No, and then yeah, and then I'd more just want to say, hey, thank you for coming on, man. And then I know I'm going to tease it also, which is not here, BlackBox, the Djinn Hunter.
Ah, yeah, the Djinn Hunter. And that's another great example. Whoo, boy, BlackBox and I spent a long time coming up with the story that eventually became Djinn Hunter. We went back and forth, but we are so proud to present with Fabrizio Constantino's amazing art, coloring, and lettering. It's so rare that you find someone who's such a triple threat in comics like Fabrizio, but he brought the fantasy world of Djinn Hunter to life. That's coming July 28th. Ask your local comic shop. It was CBR's #1 anticipated series for 2021 so far, so check it out.
Yes, he's speaking all truth right there. I didn't know that the artist was doing ink and obviously pencil and also lettering. That's pretty amazing. But
we're gonna probably we're probably gonna try to lighten his load going forward, I hope. But he's got his process and he likes it. He does a really great job. It's an anime inspired artwork with a fantasy about a Zara, who is a Djinn Hunter. She's literally a Djinn who hunts down dark magic users. Mostly it's other Djinn who are off granting crazy wishes to mortals, which always tend to backfire, whether it's a village of zombies or unstoppable sword masters or whatever. You're going to find 5 issues starting in July 28th of fantasy-fueled lesbian Djinn magic.
Ooh, I didn't know about the lesbian part. Awesome. But
yeah, well, that part's complicated. She's got an ex, and they have an ex called the Sorceress, Samira. They've got a complicated history. Their relationship status on Facebook it's complicated for about 10,000 years. So.
I'm very looking forward to it, because even just more speak on the idea of even like go back to Over the Rope. Long story short, I got a little sample, like the first 4 pages, and it got me into the idea. I'm going to pick up the trade after I get I got some money coming. I'm going to buy the trade of Over the Ropes. And I'm actually just,
Sweet.
Congratulating you, man. Hey, you keep up the good work. Where can the people find you one more time? And I know you have a podcast too. You can also promote and all that fun jazz.
You can find me, my writing, and my podcast all on jsandlin.com. My podcast is Geekopedia, where we talk with people in the comics industry from all walks of life, whether it's writers, artists, editors, even PR people. We try to get a good sampling of them all and just have a good time. But yeah, jsandlin.com, on social media at jsandlin_. Be ready for Neverland Dark Alliance. It's out June the 9th. And Djinn Hunter issue 1 is out July the 28th.
Jay is rocking out this summer with banger after banger comics. I hope you all get invested and go pick him up for him. He's a good guy. And yeah, and then thank you for coming on the show, man. And then like we say every week on here, be good to each other. And I'll catch you guys next week. Peace.